Hello, everyone, and welcome back at long last to another edition of This Week in Throws. It turns out recording these and doing the research for these is a little harder when you're moving into a new apartment than when you're driving across the country. So apologies for the delay, but we've got a lot of action from the last 2 weeks to catch up on. We're back in Gainesville now, as you can probably tell by the sweat marks on my shirt right now. First day of classes here at UF. Audrey is at her first day of grad school right now, so that's very exciting. I have my first class later today. Got to rep the WSPS for the first day of school, obviously. And yeah, that's enough fluff for now because we've got some big throws to talk about. We're going to start with some men's shot put because the biggest competitions of the last couple weeks have been men's shot put competitions where basically all the best guys in the world that are competing right now, looking at you, Mr. Ryan Krauser, they basically were going head to head times 7 all across Europe for the last 10 days. We started in Budapest, where Joe Kovacs took the win at 22:31 or 22:33. Started his revenge tour off the best way it possibly could have, coming off of missing his first U.S. team in over a decade. In that competition, he beat Tom Walsh, who finished second at 21:52. Peyton Otterdahl, 6th. Rajinder Campbell finished 7th. Chuck Enekwechi finished 3rd. Chuck was 6th. No, Chuck was third. And then he also beat Roger Steen as well. So beat a lot of really good guys, including Mr. Leonardo Fabri, who a couple days before that, he threw at a smaller meet somewhere. I'm not entirely certain where. But he threw 1860 or something. And then he no-marked at this one. A very kind of surprising performance out of him. But he no-marks at this one, so he finishes dead last. But then you go to the Silesia Diamond League, and he bounces back really well and throws 22:10, finishing second, just behind Peyton Otterdahl, who took the win at 22:28. Joe Kovacs was third in Silesia at 21:82. And then just some really solid marks there. Chuck Enekwechi finished 7th, throwing 21:56. Just the absurdity of how good and how consistent every single men's thrower in the shot is this year. It's so much fun to see because you can basically count on any time they compete. There's going to be at least 5 guys over 21 essentially. And we really saw that yesterday at the Lausanne Diamond League where they were throwing in probably the worst conditions I've ever seen for a track meet. It was just, I think they started throwing before it was getting really, really bad, but it was still raining a lot on them, but just torrential downpours that entire meet. And we still saw 8 men at 21 or better in those kind of conditions, which is insane. Joe Kovacs, though, was the only man over 22 on the day. He threw 22:04 in round 5 to take the win ahead of Leo Fabri, 21:77 for second, and Trip Pippery, 21:49 for third. So what to make of these 3 competitions? First of all, it's a damn shame that Joe Kovacs isn't going to be in Tokyo because he comes out here and he, in 3 competitions against the guys who would be his top competitors when you get to Worlds, aside from Ryan, obviously, and he takes 2 wins and finishes 3rd in the other one. So it's safe to say if he would have made the team for Tokyo, yeah, he probably would have had as good of a chance at a medal at the very least as anyone in the world. But that is just the brutality of not just the U.S. championship system, but just how good the U.S. is as a whole. He threw 22:07, I believe was his mark at USA's, and finished 4th in just a national championships without Ryan Krauser. So yeah, it's a shame he couldn't have found better on that day. It's not like the team we're sending is bad by any means. Joshua Tunde the U.S. champ, he was only in this European circuit. He was only in Lausanne, finished ninth throwing 2015, but he threw 2168 a week earlier to win the NACAC title, which is his second best mark of the season, only behind the 2247 he managed at USA's. So Josh is still in great form. Tripp was fifth at 2169 in Silesia, third at 2149 in Lausanne. And then Peyton, it's very up and down because Budapest was just a really bad day for him. Like I said, throws 2105, finishes sixth. But then he bounces back unbelievably well, takes the win in Silesia with 2228, which is just off his season's best. But then it's Lausanne it's a tough one to like make sense of what it actually means, because I don't know how much bearing it'll really have on Tokyo. For meets where the conditions are like really, really bad, like this one, or even like I think the Monaco Diamond League, which was like a couple days after pre. And so Chase Jackson was talking about how like the women's shot competition there was really tough for a lot of people because they were flying all the way across the world and the circle was weird. So like in competitions like these, I don't necessarily blame people who didn't throw that well. It's more so just a really good testament to the people who still manage to throw pretty well. And it's like, okay, it's very impressive. You're really good at handling these kind of adverse situations. So obviously big props to Joe Kovacs. And then Leo Fabry, who threw really well, throwing 2177. I think it's tough. I think Leo is probably still the favorite for gold. I mean, dealt with a little bit of adversity with those two bad meets. Like I said, the no mark in Budapest and then the like 18 something at wherever that meet was that I don't know where it was. But he bounced back really well, back over 22. I think that's his third or fourth meet, I want to say, over 22 this year, and then a solid finish in pretty terrible conditions. In where? Lausanne. That's where we were literally yesterday, Paul. You're stupid. So Leo, I'm really liking what he's been able to do. I think Zurich is going to be a big kind of like revealer. Let me see. Zurich is top 6 from the Diamond League. So who would be? I think that's probably like Leo, Peyton, Joe, maybe Chuck. I don't know if Tripp's done enough to get up there. Audrey just got back from class. Hi, Audrey.
Hi.
How was your class?
It was good. I convinced my professors that I should miss 2 classes to go to Tokyo.
You want to bring me my hat real quick?
Yeah.
We'll make.
Is this alive?
No, it's up there. It's up there.
Oh, okay.
I'll still make the reel, but might as well right now while we've got this going on. I have an exciting announcement to make since it's like 3 weeks away now. That's crazy, but Paulie throws. I don't know. I might have mentioned this at some point in one of these, but Paulie throws is going to be in Tokyo. Very exciting stuff. Going with Sidious, obviously. Audrey, social media and produces and all the other things, is also going to be in Tokyo. Might be bringing Paulie Throws live shows. We'll see if we have the bandwidth to do that with the Sidious live shows as well and all that kind of stuff. At the very least, actually, I will be doing daily recaps, unlike how I started doing daily recaps in Eugene and then kind of didn't finish that. But yeah, we're going to be in Tokyo. Mixed zone interviews are going to be coming in hot and heavy. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm so excited for that. Back on topic now. I'm sorry that you guys have to see how absurd my hair looks right now. All right, but back on topic for men's shot. I can just look up what the field for Zurich is going to be, but I think it's probably Joe, Leo, Peyton, Chuck at the very least, and then 2 more guys. Probably Tom. Maybe Rogers got enough points. He's been at a ton of Diamond Leagues. I don't know, but it's going to be very telling of, kind of the last big marker we get before Worlds, it's going to be interesting if Joe ends up winning that somehow. And then we're just like, man, what could have been I mean, we'll be doing that anyway. But yeah, so men's shot has been it's been really fun kind of keeping track of the competitions. And it feels like the Diamond League is always kind of backloaded with the men's shot competitions where it's always like they have like 5 or 6 in the span of like 4 weeks at the end of the year. Last year last year was a different schedule with the Olympics. But after the Olympics, they had like, so I remember I talked to Ryan right after the Olympics, and it was like, he was like, yeah, like I'm getting ready for like 5 competitions in the span of like 18 days or something, which is any given week for Nick Ponzio because that guy's literally competing every other day. But for these big guys, it's fun to see them competing this much. And yeah, Zurich's going to be a good one. I'll try and do a Zurich specific preview coming out in the next couple days. We've got Brussels tomorrow. We'll talk about a little bit at the end of this. And then I will try and do a Zurich preview, but no promises on that because I'm going home this weekend and classes are starting and it's going to be a little crazy. But I'll keep you guys posted. Let's talk about some of the other throws now. That's enough men's shot put. So in the Silesia Diamond League, the Silesia was a very throws heavy meet because you had 2 hammer competitions, which obviously aren't part of the Diamond League. You had a women's shot put competition that wasn't technically part of the Diamond League. And then you also had a men's jav competition. Men's jav, not a ton to report. It's still not a super exciting year. Like, Doha really baited us because we saw Niraj break 90 and we saw Julian Weber go 91. And we're like, this is going to be an insane year of men's jav. And then, like, Luiz Mauricio da Silva throwing 91 last week at Brazil, or 2 weeks ago at Brazilian champs. That was pretty sick. But aside from that, it's just kind of been a lot of nothing burgers. And Julian Weber pulled out of this one in Silesia. So Julius Jago took the win at 83.60, which if you have a this is going to be really mean. If you have a Diamond League where the winning mark is worse than the winning mark from USA's in the men's javelin, you've got a problem there. Curtis, if you're watching this, I don't know if Curtis, I'm sorry if that was mean, but it's just, I feel like it's kind of true. Like 83.60 is a very sad mark to win a Diamond League. It's Julius Jago, so you love seeing him pick up Diamond League wins. But yeah, concerning mark from this one is Anderson Peters finishing 6th in 80.63. And like early on in the season, he threw 85.69 in that crazy competition in Doha, but that was in mid-May. Since then, his best mark is only 83.63. And now in a Diamond League where he should have been able to just run away with this one, he finishes 6th and barely breaks 80. So, this is a guy that he is an Olympic bronze medalist, a 2-time world champion, another world silver medal to his resume. I think he might not have that extra world silver medal. I might be making that up. But this is a guy who is a proven championship competitor, so I'm not going to get super concerned, but and especially with how like wide open this year is, because when was the last time Niraj threw? It might have been like his Niraj Chopra Classic back in like early July or something or whenever that was. But yeah, I feel like Niraj hasn't competed in a while. Julian is on the start list for Brussels tomorrow, so that's promising. We'll talk about great throw from Curtis at Nakax in a little bit, but men's jav is really wide open, and so like this is a year where Anderson definitely could have been into medal contention, but he really just hasn't been throwing that way so far. But there's still a couple weeks until Worlds. Maybe he'll turn something around. He might be qualified for the Diamond League final. He might be in Zurich. I'm not 100% certain. But yeah, I'm not counting Anderson out by any means, especially given the state of the event right now. But it is just kind of something to keep an eye on that. He has not looked like the Anderson Peters we've come to know over the last decade or so, like 8 years. Women's shot put in Silesia, Jessica Schilder took the win in 1966. Beat basically as good of a field as you could have without Chase Jackson or Sarah Mitten also in it. Yemi Ogunleye, Olympic champ, 1950. Maggie Ewan, 1949. And then Fanny Roos continues her career year, going 1943 for fourth. So a lot of solid marks, but nothing too crazy out of any of those women. Men's hammer. We'll start in Budapest 4 days earlier, where Bence Halasz, who threw 81, I think 94 at the Hungarian Championships, PB by almost a meter. And then he threw 81.49 at a meet, I think, in Poland a couple days before they come to Budapest. And then in Budapest, he goes 83.18 by 2 centimeters, takes the world lead from Rudy Winkler. But most importantly, beats Ethan Katzberg. Ethan threw 81.88, which is the second best mark of his season, I believe. But just the series from these guys were ridiculous. Bence had 5 throws over 80 in this series, 3 over 81. Ethan had 3 over 81. And Ethan lost. That was the second time this season that Ethan had lost because Rudy beat him at pre. And it's weird. It's still weird to see Ethan Katzberg lose a competition. But then that wasn't enough. Bence Halasz does it again in Silesia. Here, Bence goes 81.77 to beat Ethan by 2.5 meters. Ethan only managed 79.30 on the day. And Bence had 4 throws over 80, 2 over 81. And this is a guy that is an Olympic silver medalist, a 2-time world championship bronze medalist, and he's now had the 4 best marks of his career in each of his 4 last competitions. He is on, it's kind of the same situation we're seeing Rudy in. Like Rudy's PB of 82.73, I think it was, coming into pre, from his previous American record, like that's an unbelievable mark, and it was better than what Bence's PB was. So it's tough for Rudy to have like his 5 best competitions ever or whatever. But this is like the same form that we were seeing Rudy in earlier on in the season. And it's just, if you would have told me that we are sitting here on August 21st this year, go back to the beginning of the season, August 21st, there's 2 guys over 83 meters this year, and neither one of them are named Ethan Katzberg, I do not think I would have believed you. But what Bence and what Rudy have been able to do is just so incredible. And coming off of last year, like Budapest was, I'm talking about the Budapest World Championships, not the 2025 Gulayist Von Memorial. Coming out of Budapest in 2023, it's like, okay, Ethan just had this breakthrough performance. What can he do now? And then in 2024, it was looking like Ethan was just never going to be challenged for the rest of his career. Like he broke 84 meters. And one of my favorite stats I ever went and found about Ethan Katzberg is among I think there's 10 guys that have thrown 84. Among the 10 guys, like Ethan broke 84 a couple months after turning 22, I think. And the next closest was like Sergei Litvinov, who first broke 84 when he was like 26 and a half. So Ethan was just better than we've ever seen someone his age. And it just seemed like he was never going to be challenged again. And then it's not like it's another super young thrower that challenged him, like Mihailo and Merlin Hummel and Armin Jabatos, if you look even more into the future. Like, they're going to be challenging Ethan, but it's not even like it's another one of these super young talents like Ethan that's coming to challenge him. It's the older guard. Like, Rudy, made his first Olympic team in 2016. Bence is 28, and they have found a way to elevate and to answer what Ethan did last year. And it's so much fun to watch because it makes this event way more interesting. Like last year, I think it was still really interesting because you were wanting to see just how far Ethan could go. And it was so much fun to see just him dominating the field every single time. But a second year of that could get kind of boring. And we haven't gotten a second year of that because of Rudy, because of Bence, because these guys aren't. I mean, obviously, they're at this stage. They're elite competitors. It's not like they're just going to be like, oh, well, I might as well give up. But they are seeing what Ethan's doing and going, okay, I'm going to respond to that. And they've responded to it as well as you possibly could have hoped for. Like, we're not even at Worlds yet. I think for most of the hammer throwers, this was probably their last competition before we get to Tokyo. But we're not even at Worlds yet, and Ethan Katzberg has already lost 3 times. Like, that is something that would have seemed improbable at the beginning of the season. And it's exciting. It's a good time. It's a great time to be a fan of the men's hammer. And I can't wait. We haven't seen Rudy, Ethan, and Bence all in one meet this year. Is that true? They might have all been in Hala, but obviously Bence has leveled up since then. But we haven't seen like this version of any of the 3 of them in the same meet. So when we get to Tokyo, if it takes 83 meters to make the podium, which is a high possibility, that would be so freaking sick. And I really hope that happens. And then while we're on the topic of men's hammer, I might just be a Jan Chosanon hater because I feel like I've been harping on this every single time he's competed this year. But for a guy that has thrown well over 81 on 3 occasions this year, I think, he does not compete that well against the rest of the best throwers in the world. He was 5th here in Silesia in a field of 6 throwers. He was 5th in Budapest behind Ethan, Bence, Merlin Hummel, and Mihailo Kokan. He was 4th at the European Team Championships earlier this year. He was 4th at the European Throwing Cup. Like, when he has gone up against the big dogs, he hasn't performed that well. And so if you're just looking at like a list of the best marks this year, like, damn, that Jan Chosanon guy's pretty good. He's probably going to be like, he could be a true medal contender. I don't think I can, despite how well he's thrown, I don't think I can put him in that conversation of like a true medal threat when we get to Tokyo, just given, I don't want to say it's choking, but the fact that he hasn't been able to step up and deliver when it matters. So that might be overly critical. If he proves me wrong, that'd be really cool. But yeah, that's just kind of that. I know everyone was wondering, where does Paulie throws stand on Jan Chosanon's medal chances? In case you were wondering, that's where I stand on Jan Chosanon's medal chances. Women's hammer in Silesia, a weird one. Cameron Rogers takes the win at 75-39. That's not that weird. But everyone kind of threw crappy on this day. Like the men threw pretty well, but Cameron only managing 75, not even 75.5 on the day. That's kind of weird. Krista Turvo was second in 72-74. Not terrible, but she's thrown way better this year. Silja Kosonen third in 72-40. Once again, not terrible, but she's thrown way better this year. And then Rachel Richardson, fourth, 71-70. And Brooke Anderson, fifth, 69-99. She fails to break 70. Aside from no marking at U.S. trials last year, there's only 3 competitions in the last, I think since Tokyo 2021, that Brooke has failed to break 70. One of them was in the qualifying round in Budapest in 2023. One of them was at NACAX in 2022, I think. But other than that, like Brooke Anderson being over 70, even like 72, 73 is a really safe bet. So I don't know what happened in this one. I'm not putting too much stock into it just because a lot of people didn't have great days. I don't think like the weather was terrible or anything like it was in Lausanne. Um, but just overall a down day for a lot of people. The one thing that kind of you take away from this now, though, is Cameron Rogers is now 3-0 this year against Brooke Anderson. So, I mean, Brooke's been throwing so well. You put Deanna in the mix, obviously, for gold medal favorite with the way she threw at USA's, but it's just so tough to say anyone but Cameron is like the heavy favorite for gold because she just fails to crack under the pressure and she is just unflappable. Um, and I mean, a lot of people had bad days. Cameron only had a decent day instead of a bad day in this one. So yeah, Cameron Rogers is still Cameron Rogers, and I hope all the women in that field can look a little more like themselves when we get to Tokyo, because that could be the best meet or the best event of the entire meet if things go according to plan. So we'll see how those end up shaking out. The rest of throwing in the Lausanne Diamond League was women's jav, where they really got hit hard by these conditions because Adriana Vilagos took the win in 63.02, a solid enough mark for her, but nothing crazy. But she threw 63.02 and won by 4.5 meters. Joanne Duplessis was second at 58.89. And this field, I mean, you had Adriana, Joanne, Haruka Kitaguchi, you had Victoria Hudson, Flor Denise Ruiz Hurtado. Like, it's basically a world final field, and only one woman was able to break 60 on the day. So it's another situation like I talked about with the men's shot in Lausanne, where I view this one more as really big props to Adriana Vilagos, as if I needed any more reason to be super excited about her. Really big props to Adriana Vilagos for dealing with this one, but I'm not getting too concerned about any of the results from the women that finished behind her, just because theoretically that weather won't be happening in Tokyo. There is one thing that I saw some people making a big deal out of on Twitter where Haruka Kitaguchi finished 10th and threw 50.93. She had a foul, and then her second throw was like 50.93, and then her third throw was like 49, and she didn't make the final. It is her first competition in almost 2 months. That is the part that I'm not super concerned about the mark. I am kind of concerned about the fact that we just haven't seen her that much. I want her to do really well in Tokyo because that would be so much fun to see her win a world title in her like home stadium. But yeah, the thing I'm more concerned with Haruka is the fact that she just hasn't competed that much, as opposed to the fact that in like a tropical storm, basically as tropical of a storm as you can get in Switzerland, she didn't break 51. Like, that's not that big of a deal to me. Moving away from the Diamond Leagues now, we've got some kind of quick hit results from around the world. In Ramona, Ralford Mullings, 72.01, number 7 all time, the fourth man over 72 meters this year. That's crazy. Just a really big day for Ralford. Like, Caleb Seal, the director of Thowtown Ramona, he texted me that morning, was like, Roger and Ralford are throwing this morning, and the conditions are phenomenal. And I'm like, this is going to be a good one. And they lived up to it. They took advantage of it. Ralford goes 72.01. Like I said, 7th all time. Roger throws a PB of 70.17, which was really good to see because his season hasn't been that good across the board, but coming away with a PB, even in Ramona, is still great to see. At NACAX, we got some NACAC results now. Men's hammer, a weird one. Daniel Haw takes the title over Rudy Winkler. Daniel goes 77.08 to Rudy's 76.87. That's Rudy's worst mark of the year by like 2.5 meters. And I assume it's probably just a situation of they're in like really heavy training right now because this one didn't really matter that much. But it's definitely weird to see Rudy go from just dropping them over 80 meters at pre in LA and at USA's and then 76.8. But I'm not super worried about it. It's just kind of a blip on the radar. Like, good day for Daniel, 77 at NACAX to win that title. And like, even on an off day, Rudy Winkler is still Rudy Winkler. So taking the win there is pretty big. But just kind of a head scratcher of a result, you could say. Also at NACAX, I mentioned Curtis Thompson earlier. He went 87.24. The most important part of this, though, is he backed it up with an 86-meter throw. So Curtis now, I've talked at length about how wide open the men's jav picture is when we get to Worlds. Curtis, this is now his second time over 87 this year. And like I said, backed it up with an 86. He threw a shade under 84 at USA's. Like, Curtis is on a roll right now, and he's doing it more than once, which is a really good thing to see from him. Like, he's now had 2 of, I think, the 5 best marks of his career have come in the last, like, 2 weeks leading up to Worlds, basically. So I'm very excited about Curtis's chances when we get to Tokyo, and, like, it's been a while since the U.S. has been on a global podium in the men's jav, and it's as good a year as any for Curtis to break that streak, and he's looking like he has the juice to be able to do something like that if the cards can fall his way. So I'm very excited for Tokyo, and I'm very excited for Curtis's chances there. I touched on Josh Awatunde, 21.68 to win NACAX. Sarah Mitten, easy win in 2002. She won by nearly 2 meters over Jessica Woodard and Jessica Ramsey. Jorinde van Klinken. Also a men's jav note. I forgot to mention that Jakub Vadlich threw recently, only his second competition of the season. He opened up in Doha back in May and threw like 79 meters, which was his worst mark in a finals since like 2015 or something, and then takes 2 months off, comes back. It was a small meet in Slovakia, I think. He went 82.33, so still a far cry from medal contention where we know he can and should be. I assume there's some sort of injury he's been dealing with. Like, you never like to assume those kind of things, but when you have one of the best in the world who just has competed twice by late August, that's kind of where your mind goes. But obviously this is a big step forward for him, not just getting back on the runway, but coming through with a big season's best. So encouraging stuff out of Jakub Vadlich right there. At a meet in, I believe this was in Germany, in Thum, Jorinde van Klinken threw 66.23, her 4th time over 66 this year, really, really continuing to solidify herself as, I think if you're just looking at podium, I think she's a podium favorite. Obviously, Val's the favorite for gold. And then, like, Bin Feng always shows up, obviously. You can never really count out Sandra Elkasevich, even though she hasn't had a ridiculously good season. But Jorinde's been putting marks together consistently, really, really impressive marks. So I really like Jorinde's chances for a medal when Tokyo rolls around. Janae, another NACAC note, Janae Kasnavoid, 74.31, solid mark for her to take the win there. And then Evie Bliss, American javelin thrower. She's the one who goes to Bucknell, who came out of nowhere to throw 60-81 at the World University Games and then win the U.S. title to go from 12th at NCAAs to a national champion, the 10th best American javelin thrower of all time, and a real chance at making the team for Tokyo. She goes to NACAX. She wins there, throws like 58 mid once again, basically solidifying her spot in Tokyo. But USATF almost didn't enter her for NACAX, which basically would have screwed over her chances of making the team for Tokyo, which is really embarrassing for USATF because otherwise I believe we would have just been sending Madison Wiltrout. So basically they were like just shooting themselves in the foot and barring someone from competing in Tokyo essentially. But thankfully they got that sorted out. But yeah, Evie gets the job done, and it's one of the most fun stories in throwing right now, just seeing the rapid ascent. And now like she's 20 years old. She's going to make the world team, get experience on that global stage. And the sky is the absolute limit for her. So I'm very excited to see what Tokyo will hold and then 2026 as well. 2026 sounds weird. Let's look ahead to Brussels a little bit, which we've got coming up tomorrow. I hope tomorrow. If I don't get this video up tonight, I'm going to be very upset. But Brussels is going to be insane. We've got men's jav, which is basically the same field that kind of disappointed in Silesia, but Julian Weber is on the start list, so that's exciting. Women's shot is going to be awesome. You got Chase, Sarah, Jessica, Jada, Maggie, basically everyone. It's basically the world final. It's going to be awesome. Men's discus, though. Oh, boy. For the first time this year, we see Maddie Denny, Mikola Selekna, Christian Che, Daniel Stahl, Roger Stona, Ralford Mullings, all sharing the same ring. This is going to be ridiculous. As long as we get better weather than we did in Lausanne, Brussels is going to be really good. So stay tuned for that one. But that is all I've got. Little bit of some yap sessions thrown in here. Like I said, apologies for this one taking 2 weeks to get out, but it helped fill the space a little bit. We had a lot of stuff to talk about. But yeah, it's been a good couple weeks. It's going to be a good week. Like I said, I will try and do, instead of This Week in Throws, I might just do a Lausanne recap, Brussels preview. Or no, shut up. A Brussels recap, Zurich preview coming up. Zurich, I think, is Thursday, Friday next week. So we'll see what I can do there. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe and follow the podcast on Spotify. I'm on Apple Podcasts too. Comment if I missed anything or if you disagree with anything I said. Just be nice about that because I don't want my feelings to be hurt. And yeah, that's all I got. And I will see you guys next time.